Now let's get into candidiasis. It's a topic I really am anxious to discuss with you. It truly is an epidemic, and unfortunately, people just aren't getting at how serious it is to have a fungal infection. So the words candidiasis, candida, yeast, and fungus, they're all interchangeable words, and we're talking about an infection in the body that is very commonplace today, and I want to show you why. Originally, 20-something years ago, when I began teaching about the diet, and I had met Dr. William Crook, and he'd written his book, The Yeast Connection. I knew I had a systemic yeast infection because I had taken antibiotics for many, many years, about 15 actually. I had a really, really painful digestion. I mean, it literally hurt when I ate food, and I had no energy, and I would have been diagnosed with something like chronic fatigue. I just was a complete mess at that time, and his book was a godsend because I just realized this is really what's wrong with me after all these years of trying to figure it out. However, when I brought the book home and started following the diet very religiously, it just, it worked sort of, but not enough. And I'd had all this training previously, and I decided that I was going to take what I knew already and figure out how to make this diet work for people with systemic fungal infections. And that's what, basically body ecology has become over all these years. And also, when I wrote the book, I wrote it with people like us in mind, people who had the systemic infection. Back in those days, there was really just a small group of people that were beginning to get turned on to candidiasis, and it was a pretty hot topic. Dr. Cook was going around the country making people aware of it. People who were in the sick camp were on top of it, but the rest of the world was clueless. Over the years, a lot of books have appeared on the topic. There's even some people that completely disagree with what I've said, but body ecology's pretty much stood the test of time, and we have had the book out in the world for over 20 years, and it's made its way around the world, helping people everywhere overcome their systemic yeast infection. So originally that was my intention, to write a book for people with systemic yeast infection. And the book has made its way all around the world and has helped tens of thousands of people. Other people have come out with programs very similar to body ecology. They're really not quite as precise. I think we've just got this condition nailed, but I want you to understand how serious it is. I want you to know that it's something to really pay attention to. You may be the only one around you that pays attention to this, because if you go to your doctor, they just don't get it. If they get a report back from the lab that you have yeast in your bloodstream or there's a gut infection, then they take it seriously, but they tend to immediately write a prescription for an antifungal like nystatin, and really that's not the answer. That is not getting to the root cause. It's not getting, the root cause is that you have this infection. The infection's causing a lot of inflammation no matter where it is in the body, whether it's in the bloodstream or in the gut. It's causing inflammation. All diseases have inflammation behind them. I believe that this systemic infection is a major cause of many, many of the diseases that people are facing today. So you can't expect your doctor to be there for you. This was one that you need to do on your own. You need to understand this infection, and then you need to know what to do to conquer it. And it's really not difficult. That's what we're going to be doing. Really, that's what body ecology is about. And that's what we're doing in this module, is covering candidiasis. And I'm going to tell you at the end exactly what the solution is to overcoming this condition. Candidiasis is a systemic yeast infection. Systemic means it's in the bloodstream. Yes, it's very possible to have candidiasis in the gut as well. And many people do. They take an antibiotic, they wipe out all the good bacteria. The yeast are there. They're not at first in a harmful form. They're in a rather, benign form. They're probably even playing an important role, one of the commensal microbes in the microbiome. And now, because they've got all the space to themselves, because the bacteria are gone, they actually become rather greedy and grow tentacles. They create inflammation. They burrow into the lining of the intestines. With that inflammation and infection that they cause, they're able then to get through that gut lining. It's no longer, it becomes very permeable at that point, so they move through and then they get into the bloodstream, and that can be where a systemic infection can start. It can start from the gut. There are other causes as well, which I'll get into, but I just want you to know that this is a deadly infection. People do die from it every day, especially if they have a compromised immune system.